She's not wife material. Just look at her, drinking beer and talking business at her own engagement party. My future mother-in-law Margaret announced to her circle of society friends, gesturing at me with her champagne flute. I stood frozen by the dessert table, holding the craft beer I'd specifically ordered for the party at the venue I was secretly paying for, wondering if she'd still be this bold when she discovered her precious son hadn't contributed a penny to our life together. Would her face maintain that smug superiority when she learned exactly who'd been bankrolling her baby boy's lifestyle? The string quartet I'd hired stuttered to a stop mid-Pachelbel, as if even the musicians sensed the shift in atmosphere. 200 guests in the ballroom of the Fairmont Hotel turned to stare, some with barely concealed delight at the drama, others with the horrified fascination of watching a car crash in slow motion. My fiancé James stood beside his mother, his face flushed with either embarrassment or alcohol, making no move to defend me. "Mother," James said weakly, "perhaps we should." "No, darling, someone needs to say it," Margaret continued, her voice carrying with the projection of someone accustomed to being heard. "A proper wife knows how to host, how to present herself. She doesn't wear a pantsuit to her engagement party or discuss quarterly reports with the men. Where's the femininity? Where's the grace?" I set down my beer with deliberate calm, straightening the designer pantsuit that apparently offended her so deeply. The same suit I'd worn to close a $3 million deal that morning. My business partner, Evan, caught my eye from across the room, his expression asking if I needed backup. I shook my head slightly. This was my moment. "You're absolutely right, Margaret," I said, picking up a champagne flute from a passing waiter. "I'm not wife material." The room seemed to inhale collectively. Margaret's eyes glittered with triumph, while James looked like he might faint. "Finally, some honesty," Margaret said. "James, darling, it's not too late." "I'm not wife material," I continued, raising my voice just enough to command the room, "because I'm CEO material. I run a company with 47 employees. I closed 3 major contracts this month alone. And this house your son claims to own? I bought it. Cash. 2 years before I met him." Someone dropped a glass. The crash echoed in the silence. "That's preposterous," Margaret sputtered. "James told us about his investments, his property portfolio. His investment portfolio consists of a Robinhood account with $73 in it and a cryptocurrency wallet worth about $12 on a good day," I said conversationally. "The property portfolio is 1 condo, mine, that he moved into 6 months ago." "Serena, please," James started. "Oh, now you want to talk?" I turned to face him fully. "Where was this energy 2 minutes ago when your mother was publicly humiliating me? Or last week when she accidentally left me off the invitation to your sister's brunch? Or last month when she introduced me to her friends as James's temporary situation?" Margaret's perfectly composed face was cracking. "How dare you speak to me? How dare I?" I laughed, actually laughed. "Margaret, I paid for this engagement party. Every penny. The venue, the catering, the string quartet, even the champagne you're drinking. James's contribution was showing up and apparently standing there while you insult me." "That's a lie." James finally found his voice. "Tell them about my promotion, about the bonus. The promotion to senior analyst? That pays $85,000 a year? Congratulations, honey. That almost covers your car payment and student loans." I took a sip of champagne. "Should I tell them about the bonus? Or would you like to explain how you spent it all on a boys' weekend in Vegas?" The crowd was fully engaged now, phones discreetly recording, probably already trending on social media. My parents stood near the entrance, my mother looking mortified, my father trying not to smile. "This is inappropriate," Margaret hissed. "Discussing money at a social gathering. You mean like how you discussed my unsuitability as a wife at my own engagement party?" I pulled out my phone. "Let's talk about money then. Would you like to see the deed to the house? The bank statements? The tax returns that show I made 7 times what your son made last year?" "Money isn't everything," Margaret said weakly. "Really? Because it's all you've talked about since we met. How James needs a wife who can support his career. How important it is to maintain a certain standard. How I should quit my little job to focus on making a proper home for him. Because that's what wives do." Margaret exploded. "They support their husbands, they create a peaceful home, they pay for everything while their husbands take credit?" I suggested. "They sit quietly while their mother-in-law insults them? They pretend to be less successful to protect fragile egos." "Serena, you're making a scene," James said, finally stepping forward. "I'm making a scene?" I set down my glass carefully. Your mother just announced to 200 people that I'm not good enough for you. But I'm making a scene by defending myself. She didn't mean it that way. Yes, I did, Margaret interrupted. James, you need a woman who understands her place, who won't overshadow you or make you feel inadequate. And there it was. The truth, finally. Is that what this is about? I asked James directly. You feel inadequate because I'm successful? His silence was answer enough. Let me make this crystal clear. I addressed the room, though my eyes stayed on James. I built my company from nothing. I earned every penny in my bank account. I bought my house at 26. I did all of this while being told by people like Margaret that I was too ambitious, too independent, too unwilling to dim my light to make others comfortable. Success in business doesn't make you a good wife, Margaret insisted. And what makes you an expert on being a good wife? I turned on her. The 3 marriages? The prenups that got progressively more generous? Or the way you've spent 30 years living off alimony and calling it maintaining standards? Gasps rippled through the crowd. Margaret's face went from red to white. How dare? I dare because I'm done. Done pretending that success is something to hide. Done acting like my money doesn't matter when it pays for everything. Done letting you insult me because somewhere along the line, we all agreed that keeping the peace was more important than truth. I walked over to James, who looked like he wanted the floor to swallow him whole. You told me you loved that I was successful, that you weren't intimidated by strong women, that your mother would come around once she got to know me. She will. No, she won't. Because she doesn't want to know me. She wants to erase me and replace me with someone who makes you feel bigger by being smaller. I pulled off my engagement ring, the one I'd paid for myself because James insisted on upgrading, the one he could afford. Here, give this to someone who fits your mother's definition of wife material. Serena, don't be dramatic. Dramatic? I handed him the ring. James, you've been lying to everyone for 2 years. Your car? I paid for it. Your watches? Birthday gifts from me. The vacation to Turks and Caicos where you proposed? I booked and paid for everything while you took Instagram photos pretending to be a baller. We're a couple. We share. We share nothing. You take. I give. Your mother insults. I endure. That's not a partnership. It's a parasitic relationship with a side of emotional abuse. Margaret found her voice again. You can't speak to us this way. The Hendersons are pillars of society. The Hendersons are broke, I announced. Oh, did James not mention that? The family money ran out years ago. The house in the Hamptons? Mortgaged 3 times. The country club membership? 6 months behind on dues. The only reason you're still pillars of society is because you've mastered the art of keeping up appearances. James. Margaret turned to her son. Tell her she's wrong. But James couldn't. Because I wasn't wrong, and everyone in that room could see it on his face. The saddest part, I said, gathering my purse, is that I would have loved you anyway, James. Without the lies, without the pretense. I fell in love with the funny, sweet guy who made me laugh and watched reality TV with me on Sunday mornings. But that guy got buried under your mother's expectations and your own insecurity. Where are you going? James asked as I headed for the door. To my house. My actual house that I actually own. Your things will be boxed up by Monday. You can't just leave. Watch me. I paused at the door, turning back to address the room one last time. For anyone keeping score, I'm 30 years old. I run a multi-million-dollar company. I own my home outright. I have no debt, significant savings, and a 5-year business plan that doesn't include shrinking myself to make insecure people comfortable. If that doesn't make me wife material, then I'll happily stay CEO material. The room erupted the moment I left, voices raised in shock, gossip, and what sounded like a few cheers. I made it to my Tesla, yes, mine, not his, before the tears came. Not tears of sadness, but of relief. 2 years of biting my tongue, of pretending to be less than I was, of letting Margaret chip away at my self-worth. It was over. My phone exploded with messages before I even left the parking lot. Friends who'd witnessed the scene, colleagues who'd already seen videos posted online. My mother demanding to know what had happened. I ignored them all except one, from Evan, my business partner. Holy shit. Are you okay? Also, remind me never to piss you off. I voice texted back. I'm great. And I need champagne. Real champagne, not the stuff Margaret picked. My place in 20. Lisa's already pulling out the Cristal. As I drove away from the hotel, I caught a glimpse of myself in the rearview mirror. Smeared mascara, slightly wild hair, and the biggest grin I'd worn in months. Margaret was right. I wasn't wife material. Not the kind of wife she envisioned for her son, anyway. I was the kind of woman who built empires, who refused to apologize for success, who wouldn't shrink to fit into spaces too small for her spirit. Let James find his proper wife. Someone who'd support his illusions and cater to his mother's delusions. Someone who'd never mention that the emperor had no clothes, no money, and no spine. As for me, I had a company to run, a life to live, and a future that didn't require anyone's approval. The engagement party might have been a disaster, but the clarity it brought? That was worth every penny I'd spent on it. Even the overpriced champagne Margaret had complained about.